Alright, hi. In this video we're going to make a melon basket or an egg basket. And this is one that I made many years ago, probably almost 10 years ago by now. And it's really made out of wild grapevines for the frame, and for the weavers, the weavers are elm bark, and it could do some patching up. It's the some parts of it have broken off and become brittle. My girlfriend uses this a lot to harvest stuff from our garden, and so I decided to make another one for her that's got a little bit heavier, a little bit bigger, I should say. It is heavier, and it sits more squarely on the ground, whereas these can lean to one side or the other, based on how you shape the frame. And so this one is made completely out of willow and willow bark, and but it's harvested. The willow has been harvested in the summertime. And what can happen with that is it's not as pliable, it's not as workable. What you're technically supposed to do is, this is a round basket I made out of willow, is you're supposed to harvest the willow when the sap is low, meaning in the fall and the winter time, and then let it dry out until you're ready to use it, usually around spring, summertime, and then reconstitute it into like a big tub, a long tub with hot water, and then it becomes workable and pliable again. And especially this is a result of doing that process. So it's a lot more prettier and less rustic looking as this one, the one that we're gonna make in this video. But in a pinch it'll work for the most part. There's some other embellishments and some tweaks here and there that I need to do to really make it completely done. But this is a melon basket we're gonna make in this video. Alright, we have Salix alba, which is white willow. We're going to use this as our main medium, and we're going to use it pretty green. Not quite sure how it's going to turn out. Normally we'd harvest this in the winter, in the fall, when the sap is down, and let it dry out over the winter time, and then reconstitute it in hot water. But you know, we're gonna make a quick and dirty melon basket, and this is kind of a larder of material that we can use. And a lot of times what can happen is, you know, when you're harvesting, you want to look for such instances as this, is when there's different branches or stalks rubbing against each other, because what will happen is they'll rub against each other and then create sores or scars, which creates disease and such, and things like that. So that's kind of what you want to harvest. If you're looking for something really straight, then you look for the straight pieces, but for the most part, this is what the plan is, and this is the material we're going to use. Oh, by the way, it is a water plant, so it grows near waterways. There's a lake behind me over there. There's a little pond further off that way, so the roots are looking for water. So they're definitely found around water or ponds or lakes. All right, I've already kind of got the first hoop made, and I'm just doing it I'm doing it quick and dirty. I'm not there's lots of ways to do this. I mean, professional basket weavers, you guys out there know there's tons of ways you can carve and splice and even wrap and just twist. This is just real kind of simple concept to get something that's functional. So again, I want something roughly the same size as the previous basket. This is going to be a little larger. I want it that way, but basically the way these egg baskets are constructed is there is a hoop that goes, or an oval is probably better, but there's a hoop that goes one way and horizontally, and then there's a hoop that goes laterally. Okay, so we're gonna bend another branch or another twig, another stave, we'll just call them a stave, to roughly match the same circumference or diameter as this first hump or first hoop. And again, I'm using the bark from other stripped staves, and the lashings from Willow are actually very strong. The inner bark is where the medication is for pain relief, but that's another subject. And again, to try to have this dry or shape to my will while it's still wet. I'm working this wet. I just harvested these staves this morning, and so while it's still wet, I want to be able to bend it and mold it and fold it. And so as it dries, it maintains its structure. Okay. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to place this on the ground. I hope the camera angle is okay. I'm going to back up a little bit to give a little bit more room here. I've got my lashings. I did these lashings yesterday or day before yesterday. So what they do is they dry out, and so you need to reconstitute them. When we get into actually filling in the basket for its structure, we'll talk about the lashings. But right now we're just going to use them as a tool to make our frame. But on this old basket here, I'm using elm bark. And the thing is there's lots of holes in here. I could plug it up. I could plug it up with willow. I could, harvest some more elm bark and kind of fill in the spaces here. But, as you can kind of see here, because the lashing is kind of coming apart. It gets used pretty well, as you see. There's some harvest from the garden here. So it gets used pretty well. But that's what the newspaper is for, is to make sure that the smaller produce doesn't fall through the holes, thus making a new, more better basket. All right. So while the willow while it's still wet, basically, it hasn't dried out, you can start to kind of bend and kind of shape it. There's one end that's these taper, so there's one end that's gonna be more thicker than the top end. Okay, so I wanna make sure that this folds in on itself. The way that this, because I was using grape leaves for the frame, the grape leaves are grapevines for the frame. I was able to just kind of wrap it, and it worked pretty well structurally, and it's very rustic looking. It works. The nature offers all kinds of tips and hints for problem solving in your projects. But again, so we're going to kind of bend this and try to get this, work it nice and loose and pliable. But before I do that, I kind of want to give it some memory, kind of get it ready to go under some stress, as opposed to just trying to force it, because that's when you get snappage. Now, I harvested two roughly about the same in diameter. I actually have an extra one as well in case some sort of mishap happens. But see, this offers a nice oval shape here. And again, I could twist this around, but I'm just gonna wrap it, and we'll worry about how we're gonna attach it for now. But this offers a kind of a nice oval shape here, roughly, about the same size here. We'll decide which one's going to be the handle and which one is not going to, which is going to be vertical, which is going to be horizontal. So now that we've kind of forced this a little bit, shaped this a little bit, we're going to be ready. You see, this is really tight. This is really good tough material. Willow is. I mean, there's all kinds of. If you have a Pinterest account, just do willow artwork, willow chairs, willow baskets. This stuff is so pliable. Mind you, when you harvest, where you harvest it is you harvest it in a wet place. So right next to a pond or a lake or whichever is where it is best. Where it grows, and it grows and needs moist, wet soil, and thus it has the same properties as water. It's light, it's pliable, it's actually pretty strong. for making all kinds of tools. It's easy to work with, easy to carve with, when you are for whittling or for other little projects and stuff like that. But other types of, as I've noted, because of my older basket, other types of materials can be used too, as long as they, you know, have the properties that you need to bend and shape and all that. Anyhow, I'm gonna release some of these lashings that we will use for the construction of the basket itself, but for now we just want to get a good shape. And so again, I just reconstitute it, and I want to, it's kind of tricky, but we'll make it work. So again, we're gonna bend this, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just make a loop, so we can kind of hold this in place. So there's all kinds of, just keep it simple. Just gonna make an overhand loop, like this in it. So this is basically what I'm doing here, just making a loop, and then that way I can fit this end in it, and this will help kind of bind or wrangle our hoop together. Okay, so we're gonna get the shape, and then we're gonna try to corral this thing into the shape that we had before. Oops, Daisy. So I want to kind of get it into about the shape that we had it before. It's about right. Also, we want to make sure that, you know, that there's some friction as far as these fitting into one another perpendicularly. So if I make it too big, we may have some troubles. If I make it too small, we may have some troubles. So they should just kind of fit into one another with a little bit of tension. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're gonna, it's a little bit more, and then we'll make it work. We're not gonna make anything permanent just yet, but we want to just shape the hoop. So this is the structure that we have, or we want, like that. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, go ahead and put the lashing on the big part here, because we want to try to wrestle this down. I just want to loop this over the big part, and that'll hold. And then as we are making our hoop, I can then now start to get this just like the way that I want it, and I can start to pull these lashings and start a preliminary wrap just to get the structure that we want. And it would be nice if I had a nice backyard or wooded space with a little bit of privacy, because it'd be nice to be able to work this outside. But hopefully y'all get the idea of what I'm doing and how this is being done. And I'm going to just try to lash that down. And then all I'm going to do is just I might need to back off a bit, because we're going to add some more lashing. And I'm just going to do a half hitch on here, and it'll hold. Maybe if I can get it in the right place, I can kind of cinch this. Nah. So that'll hold, that half hitch. We kind of lost what I was trying to do. I was trying to get this underneath, but that's not a big deal, because now that we have this in place, what we can do is we can grab another lashing and reinforce and kind of bend the willow to our will, as it were. And the lashing split pretty decently. They're easy to work with once you get them reconstituted. So again, I just want this to be underneath here. It doesn't really, at the end of the day, it won't matter too much. but that wasn't as tight as I'd like it to have been. And depending on your region, I mean, there's all kinds of basket making materials just growing around. That's why it's important to get to know your fauna, your flora, your plants and things. Ethnobotany is something to study what the Aboriginal or Native peoples use for basketry or different other projects. Like in an arid place like, I don't know, Arizona or out southwest somewhere, you know, you probably have to use yucca or something like that. There's not a lot of water or not a lot of lakes. Where I live here, there's tons of lakes. It's land of 10,000 lakes, so this is a very plentiful resource. And I believe there are 2 species of willow, I believe white and black willow. And as I mentioned before, they were used as a basis for aspirin. So it has medicinal properties as well as utilitarian properties. This wetland tree. All right. So we kind of got this shaped, you know, and it's pretty strong, pretty surprisingly strong, considering how spindly it looks. Okay, so for this, depending on how we're going to shape this might be used, since it's more flat down here, this might be used as the bottom, and so this becomes the handle, and this would kind of fit in here like so, and then we could start to shape towards the bottom, or this could be the handle, and we could have more of a rounded bottom, depending on how we end up really shaping this. So for now, I'm just going to let these kind of shape and form up overnight, and then we'll really kind of lash these down. We'll undo these, and we'll since they'll have a bend to them, we'll be able to lash these down appropriately, or properly. So that's pretty much it for now, but this is the 2 parts that you'll need. Again, 2 pieces of willow and about the same kind of diameter. And again, this is going to be really rustic and quick and dirty. I mean, you know, as a designer, as a graphic designer myself, I can be quite nitpicky about you know, shaping, and is everything, as you know, symmetrical, and you can do all that if you want to. I'm going with the mind of I'm just out in the bush and I need to make a basket fairly quickly. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be functional. And so let's go with that. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the reason why I do my videos the way that I do here on this channel, is that I don't, I can be kind of a perfectionist, and if everything isn't just right, I would never have started this channel. You know, yeah, people have complained about, you know, lighting and all this and that, and I'm like, look, I'm just doing this to archive what I'm working on and maybe share, maybe inspire. But trust me, if I wanted studio quality video work and all this and that, I would have invested in that. But I'm busy with other things, so I'm not really too particular as far as that's concerned. So hopefully this will, you know, kind of get your juices flowing on your own project like this. So this is how I'm going to make this, and we'll be back to finish this up and actually start lashing these 2 pieces together.
All right, so we reshaped and actually cut and actually kind of tied the one of the hoops, so it's a little bit more balanced and not so much kind of like bottom heavy, meaning this part of the branch or hoop is too thick that overtakes the thinner part. Again, this could all be shaved and all kinds of cool stuff could happen. It can make it really like completely symmetrical, like circumference that looks really cool. Again, I'm about the quick and dirty for the most part. So all I did was a regular kind of regular whipping with the bark of the willow. So we're going to do the same thing with the other piece here, meaning we're going to prune it a little bit. We still want to keep it about the same size, but we now can figure out about where we can snip this. And my eyes here, we can kind of snip this right about here, and then kind of tie everything similarly to what we just did there, and we should have a pretty even edge. But the whole point of the first exercise was just to kind of mold the branch into shape while it was green. Then it'll make it a little bit easier to kind of shape it as we need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lashings that we put in here apart, and then we're going to snip, and I'm eyeballing it. I'm going to snip it about the middle, I think here, which would be about good, snipping about right here. And I probably will just kind of, for continuity sake, I'll just kind of give a little snip here. Just a little marking, so it knows where I want, so I can remember where I want to clip it at. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and take this apart. Okay, so based on where I snipped it before, I actually want to, yeah, I found where my snip is. It's right where my thumb tip is at, just to give a marker. So that's where I'm going to clip this. In the meantime, what I want to do is I want to take some of my previous cordage and create a reverse wrap up until that clipping there, okay? And then we'll snip the rest of it. And I already have, you know, again, I'm taking, this dries a little bit, especially overnight, but it's easily reconstituted. We're gonna take a nice piece here that should work for the length that we want. I'm probably gonna go for something a little longer, I think. But either way it'll work, because like we can do it twice and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. So again, we're just going to do some whipping, and what I want to do is I want to make sure I have a long enough tail and create a loop. I've already done a video on how to do this. Look at my archives. I will most likely post a video below, but I'm already showing how to do this, and I'm saying about where we need to start whipping, and then hopefully this is enough to pull it through. But a lot of this, what I'm finding, especially with this willow work, is how to kind of wrangle it, kind of get control of it, because it's very supple, snake-like, if you will, but very strong, which is an aptitude. These are aptitudes that we want in this type of material. So, okay, I'm gonna have to go a little longer. I don't like that, but it'll probably give us some teaching moments, which will be just fine. So right about there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start wrapping from that point where I'm going to clip it most likely. And I'm just going to start wrapping. Forget this part here for now. It's going to be obstinate. But let's just wrap this piece around. And again, I've done a video on how to do whipping, so I'll put it below. Look it up if you don't know how to do it. I will not go into detail here how to do this. Losing a little bit of length, which is okay. So now I'm going to tuck this in to the end loop, because we'll be able to deal with the lack of length later. Are you kidding me? The heck is causing this to not? Went in the wrong way. Alright, so I'm going to hold this in here and just pull this through, which will lock everything in. For the most part, okay? And as far as this other end is concerned, I can continue to do more work. I will take this loose end here and I will wrap this around some more just to kind of hide it. And I could slide it in between these two pieces here to cinch that in, and do that a couple of times. And when I do that, I'll probably just do a couple of half hitches just to lock it in place. There'll be other locking mechanisms available as we start to finish out this project, but for now, this is just to hold this hoop into place. Just like that. We'll take a smaller piece here that's been soaking, and I want to do another, how do you say, another common whipping here, just to make sure stuff is nice and cogent. And I may come in the other side just to hide stuff. So I may come in and make the loop this way, so the loop is towards this thumb, and then I will do my wrapping towards this piece here that's outcropping. It's outcropping like that. And all I have to do is just wrap around a couple of times. around a couple of times. Push stuff into place. Use a little elbow grease so everything is tight. And sometimes they can overlap a little bit. And then all I'm going to do is tuck this into the loop. And then I can take the other end here and pull. Okay, that'll cinch things and make them tight. I could probably take a piece of pliers, and Willow is not poisonous, so I can probably use my teeth to kind of pull this tighter. Make sure this is in here nice and tight. Okay, so now we have a section that looks like this. We'll deal with this for now, later, but for now we got some loose ends we have to literally kind of deal with. So we still want this cordage, or this lashings. You can call it cordage too. Same thing. Put it back in the water. And then where we had snipped it more or less is now where we can cut it off. Okay. And there's all kinds of ways you can probably cut it this way, you can kind of cut it that way. You gotta, when you got handy dandy cutting tools, fancy modern day cutting, you can do whatever. But for now, I'm just gonna cut it straight down. Just like so. And this will be worthwhile. This will work. This works for what we need it to do. And then what we can do then, now, see what's going on. There's some other stuff that we can kind of roll in here, but it's more rustic. But now we can really kind of shape this, and it becomes more round piece. Albeit it's not as pretty as we like it to, but that's what you just take a pair of scissors or your clippers to. Alright, and push this down here more, and this will be covered up with more lashings soon, so that's why I'm taking the time to cut these off, which will tie everything together. They're more built for cutting branches and stuff, but another pair of scissors should do it. But at any rate, what we can do now is when we put as I explained the other day, we can put these pieces together and start to shape them. And what I'd like to do is on each end where we have these lashings is where they get tied into. That'll be a good way to also hide the lashings, depending on how we want to make or shape this type of basket. Okay, so we have something that really looks like this. Okay, which will give us, depending on how we shape it, some pretty deep I don't know, there's probably terms for it, but there's a deep bowl here. We can probably pull it up so it's even more deeper, so it can carry more stuff, or lower and it becomes more of a wider bowl. And then we'll figure out which way makes the better handle. Okay, so that's kind of the next steps we're going to go on as far as lashing this together. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, I want to cut into this willow so I can at least get my fingernails in there, and I'm holding the blade steady as I kind of pull the material away so I don't lash out and hit somebody or hit myself or anything like that. And then I can find the line that I just cut into, and then now I got a piece that I can just start to kind of peel away from, or kind of like a banana. And I can kind of process accordingly. This has to be green and it has to be fresh. If you let this sit in your garage or attic or whatever basement for any number of time, months, and this and that, they'll glue onto the wood, and it might as well just be a part of it then. But while you just freshly cut it, you can be able to peel this, and now you have not only the wood itself as a resource, but you have the bark, which is actually very strong and resilient and supple, as well as the bark is very resilient, strong, and supple. I mean, it's not dense or heavy like oak, but then, you know, that's for different products and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, this is how you extract the cordage that you need for various projects, and especially for this project, making an egg basket or other baskets, whatever, that you might need. Whether you're using willow or not. Maybe you just want the willow for the lashings, and then you use another type of material to fashion your project or whatever. So this is how you extract the cordage material that you need for your egg basket project. And you could keep it supple in water. When you don't need it, just wrap it up, put it in a nice cool dry place till you need it again. Wrap it in water again, or douse it in water again, warm water, hot water, and it'll be ready for use at that time.